It is now facilitating committee meeting. Roll call, please.
Hightower,
Here.
Mora, Mason,
Here.
Jackson, Travis,
Here.
O'Connell, here, Sosa.
We have Jeremy Fleming and Ricardo Amadano with us from Gilbane to present an update on the construction project. They'll have 2 drone videos to share, and then Justin Kelly is from with us tonight to present some updates on some change orders.
Okay, well, Jerry.
I'll kick it off. All right. So I'll start off as we always do with the drone video for Sunnyside and Carter, which not a lot changing. And one thing you'll see is the metal panels progressing up on the roof elevation. This was taken last Wednesday, so Tuesday or Wednesday last week. So we've made a little more progress. And I think we'll actually finish metal panels this week. So. Yeah, I know he changed it up for us. So you can see there that last section, the south penthouse area, over Sunnyside, has the blue or had the blue on it. And this, we're down really just to one wall section as of today that is left. So that's why I say we'll probably finish those up this week. Some miscellaneous trim to do, kind of all around the building at doors and stuff, and we'll get all that finished up later this week or early next, and done with that scope. So there's a long time coming on another panels, but we're almost there. So obviously, since we last met, the big achievement has been when school started, and the kids are in the new building, right? So really, we're just working through punch lists at this point. Maybe it was defective work, dings in walls, things that weren't working or weren't completed at the time of school. So when the whole team went through, they had about 3,500 items on that list, both interior and exterior. We are down to, I didn't look at the count right before I came here, but somewhere around 50. So we're right there. And just kind of working and troubleshooting things as they come along, as the staff brings things up to us. So it's been pretty minimal, honestly. I think hopefully it's going as smooth on your end as it seems to be from our end. So we're doing a little bit of painting in back of house spaces, for electrical rooms and mechanical rooms that didn't get painted during the course of construction, and just kind of trying to close out those contracts. So the other big thing is just closing out contracts. So we're starting to reconcile allowances, final contract amounts, and in February we'll actually start closing out some of our trade contracts that are associated with this building, but not associated with phase 2 for the demolition and site work. So I think there's 30 contracts on this job. Our goal is to get down to about eight of those remaining for the phase 2. So I guess that leads me into phase 2. So they started abatement last week in the old Sunnyside and Partner. They're planning to be done, my understanding is February 3rd. And so we are underway. We've been meeting with the demolition contractor to talk through the sequence of events, the schedule, planning for safety, all that. So we're in discussions on that and how that's going to go, when we're going to start. I'm also chasing the utility companies to get the power, the gas, the water, sewer, phone, internet, all of that disconnected from the building. So that's all in the works as well right now.
So what's the timeline for the demolition start? You don't have a timeline yet?
We would like to start on February 13th is the deadline I gave all the utility companies to be disconnected.
Or get any pushback from any utility?
No, but I haven't gotten any positive traction on a couple of them there. So we have service requests. Basically, the two main ones, Nycor and ComEd, had us fill out a new business application and put in a service request. And so those are in, and I expect to be hearing from both of them this week.
This is for the old building?
Correct.
Okay, so. I would actually not be doing. Why would I?
We have the new accounts, we worked with Gilbane, for contacts, and Dale may have worked with, helping to set up the new accounts. But part of the demo,
Discontinuing the accounts. Why would we be paying for paying not to do that?
I don't think we're paying outside of the contract.
Okay.
Yeah, that's. I mean, you're welcome to do it, but I'm just doing it.
Okay.
So, yeah, there's no extra charge for it.
All right. Fair enough.
But I am working with Dale. I got the account numbers. Joe's helped me with the Comcast contact, AT&T. So we've kind of worked with all these vendors throughout the course of the project. So you guys have your account reps who have been helpful to us to a degree. So just kind of keep it on that same path to get it done. So that's the goal. This is start mid-February. A couple things have to align, but when we do start, it will start by basically gutting the building. Where all the finishes, all the ceilings, metals out of the inside of the building. The structure will remain, and then once it's gutted, we will take the structure down. So,
And where do you want the furniture out of the buildings?
We have repurposed quite a bit of furniture, not only within the district, but also with other school districts. Mrs. Vince and Mr. White were very helpful with getting other school districts to come over and reuse our furniture. And then when we bid the demolition, part of that was to bid with what was in the building as well. So that was a consideration, but they knew we were going to try to move as much as we could. So we did.
all right. Any questions on the update for Sunnyside Park? Okay. I just have 3 change orders for you this month. The first one is PR 58, and I think we may have talked about this. There was a railing at the Sunnyside Learning Stair that came up during the final code inspection that needed to be added for a grass molding handrail. So we got that done prior to occupancy, and the cost on that was $1,650. The second one is district change order 130. It relates to PR 60. And this is a couple doors to the main offices that are card reader in and card reader out for security purposes. That's kind of that second line of security. And those 2 doors, in order to unlock in the event of a fire, so that people can exit through those doors without having to swipe or put a key in, need to be tied to the fire alarm. So we got that done actually just recently at one of the days off. So that is done. Those 2 doors are tied in, and the card readers are working properly on those doors at this time. So the cost on that was $4,262. And then the last one here came up during final IDPH inspections, kind of through the holidays. where the chemical systems that are utilized in the kitchens and the janitorial closets are hooked to the water service, and then they dispense at a set ratio. Those needed to have RPZs, pressure reducing valve, prevent any backflow into the system of chemicals, so that it can't siphon the chemicals back into the overall water system throughout the building. As well as a couple of check valves and thermostatic mixing valves at some sinks in classrooms where students could be washing their hands. The requirement was that the furthest out mop sink being running 120 degree water. So some of the sinks that were closer into the water heater were actually running above 120, requiring them to have a mixing valve where it mixes the hot and cold water to get it set at 1. So we went through and did all that. We did this all time and material as it was, as I said, last minute, it had to be done. And we tracked it with the plumber. They were very fair with us. But the total cost on this did come to $27,610. So it was a lot of work to get done. So
What do you have?
there were 9 RPZs between the kitchen and the janitor closets. There were 26 classrooms, I believe, for sinks, and a couple of check valves.
Well, very high.
Those are the changes I have for you. Ricardo's got your Riley Norton update.
Question before
Yes.
we talked about open house and we open schools about the safety rails on the stage. Okay.
Yep,
Do we look at a suggestion, opportunities to fix that?
we've talked about it. Yes, we don't have a plan in place yet, but it is on the list to do.
The safety rails on the, are you looking puzzled? I was concerned about the plane of the step, exactly.
So it'll just be a small single.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
Any other questions? All right.
Evening, everyone. So, similarly, we'll start the Riley North Lake section with the dome video. Alright, so starting at the exterior of the building, the biggest difference here since we last spoke was curtain, the large openings at the North Lake cafeteria. Just right there at the center of the street. All of that glass, that framing has already been complete. Last time we spoke, it was a big opening. So now we have a framing in, all the glass in, other than one piece that unfortunately broke on us, which is on order, so we're expecting them in the next 2 days here. So technically we're, well, reality now, we are fully weathered in here, so protected from the elements, we're working in that space comfortably, we have some heat going into that space. So, that's on the exterior, probably one of the largest differences here. In addition, metal panels just around the curtain wall as well as on the west side of the addition. We are just about, I would say about 85% complete with metal panels. We're anticipating metal panels to be complete later this week, maybe trickling into next week a little bit here. So you should basically see how the end product of your building is starting to be formed here. So Metal panel will be in, glass will be in, metal coping, will be actually starting hopefully tomorrow if the weather allows. So again, you'll see basically a finished part of the exterior here, so. You see it, what else we have on the outside. One big item that was actually delivered and installed was, the chillers that was installed on Saturday. That was, essentially the last big piece of equipment that we were waiting on to make your system work. Chiller for providing all the air conditioning, well, circulating all the water to provide that air conditioning without the addition. And the two existing schools, so the chillers that are gonna be up on Riley, those get removed and everything's gonna be circulating through those new chillers here, so. That was the last big mechanical item we were waiting on for this station. Kept getting pushed back and finally we got it here on Saturday, we wasted no time, got them up there, got them connected, so. Currently doing everything that we can to get these things, up and running, so. At the exterior, I'm sorry, at the interior, continued along with framing, we're about 98% complete with framing. There's about 2 clouds that we need to get framed, in the cafeteria for Riley. For North End, I'm sorry. And we'll be 100% done with framing. Similarly, drywall is framing, right behind that, so the drywall, we're about 90% complete. So a few small walls that we need to close up, as well as this cloud, so we're following right behind that with the drywall, so. Going along with that, finish painting, and sanding, that takes a little bit more time, it can be a little, finicky just with some weather conditions, takes just drying time essentially. So as of right there, we're about 60% complete, essentially from the admin area to the cafeteria, that's all been complete. Kitchen area, the new restrooms, and the reception area should be 100% complete by the end of Wednesday, so we're starting to get into those completed areas, starting to clean all that. Gym is all painted. The cafeteria, that image on the top left, that was actually just painted today. So we're starting to get a much better idea of how this product will be from the inside as well. So very good progress there. Let me see. In terms of items to make the building work, mechanical plumbing is just about there, all roughly. Electrical is following very close behind that. We're about 85% complete with the electrical roughing. We are currently in the corridor that leads from the Riley side to the North Lake side. We're finishing up in the North Lake cafeteria. It should take about 2 weeks till we're basically entirely complete with the rough here. So, now we're finishing are basically following. We actually just started tile today in the restrooms. So is everyone pretty well there? Any questions?
No shortage on supplies, all supplies and stuff.
As of right now, everything that we had issues with are. The last item that we have is storage, we're expecting those on the 31st. So.
Those chillers that were delivered and set up Saturday was really a big outstanding piece. Those have been scheduled for delivery since July. And every month they keep pushing them back and back and back. And we weren't really ready for them in July, to be honest. But, you know, September, October, we were ready for them. And they just, every time the ship date came around, they'd say, oh, no, next month. So that was a big piece. I think the rooftop units for this summer's work are all in local storage here. We have those already secured. So that's a big thing. And the doors, as he said, and cabinetry are all on track to come next week. Yeah. So
August date is looking pretty good.
Well, for the addition, we're looking to turn that over in April.
Progress.
Yes. And we still need to finish the classrooms in both schools and the new furniture and the work in the North Lake gym. Okay. No shortage of things to still do.
We'll be pretty awesome. Alright, Joe Chambers, please. So Joe, actually, could you go over to the owner change law? That's what I'm on. Look at. More. Keep going down a little bit more. It should be, it's page 5 of 6. What was your number?
Say 5 to 6.
I believe. Oh, yeah. Sorry. There it is. All right, perfect. So I have 2 items that I want to provide updates on. These 2 items were originally not to exceed values. The first is the foundation wall. We actually installed a thin brick veneer at the loading dock at the North Lake loading dock foundation wall, the exposed foundation wall. To clean it up, provide a little bit more durability there. We installed that thin brick, like I mentioned. So the original price that we had there was $27,990. Final number came out to $26,920. Some saving, small, but albeit saving nonetheless. So the next item that I have on here, I believe I should be able to bring this number down by a few more $1,000. Is the gas reroute over at the Riley boiler room. Started this number off at $10,000. Managed to save some time by doing this work at time and material. So we're currently sitting at $6,867. There's some masonry work that we need to touch up. I believe I have about $2,000 saved in there. Won't necessarily be all that much, so we should be a few more $1,000 we need to that. So, all right. Looking at the new items that we have on here, district change order 132. This change order is for the replacement of 4 starters. There was an existing panel that was demolished. The circuit breakers for that panel had more starters built in. When we went ahead and provided excuse me, when we went ahead and provided the new circuit breaker, we didn't necessarily have the starters in place. So to basically get the starters back in, we're providing these new starters. We are looking at a price of $8,175. District change order 133. As we were looking to install the new transformer rewiring into the switchgear on North Lake, we found that the wiring into that switchgear was done improperly. Not exactly sure when it was done, but and justification is that it's not correct. It went into the distribution stuff. It's not very safe. So since we were going to be replacing the primaries and secondaries into that switchgear, what we decided to do, working with Wolf, determine a solution that would rectify that. To be able to do that, we need to do a little bit of rewiring, add a blister. For the rewiring, it's about 640 feet of feeder cable that we need to replace. So it was a decent amount of feeders that we would need to do, resulting in a cost of $22,905 here.
So it's the existing conditions of the unsafe conditions.
And just to be clear on that, ComEd would not have energized the new transformer that the wired wings. So kind of a must do, must correct.
You think that was the original one?
Yeah, I do, but
3 more. District change order 134. This is additional supplemental lighting at Casework. There's just a few LED light strips that we needed to add display cases. In addition to that, there was also a revision of lighting to the North Lake lift area down in the basement. There's a few lights that were also there. So this change resulted in an add of $4,304. District change order 135, relating to PR 39. Similarly to what we did at Sunset and Park at the stage, we replace the MDF or the MDF floor with an LVT. So we are doing the exact same thing over to the right, or to the, Riley stage, resulting in an add of $5,000. Lastly, district change order 136. Very recently, there was a cement shortage. With that cement shortage, there was a surcharge passed on to companies like manufacturers of that concrete. So it was in very, there was a surcharge of $30 per cubic yard of concrete. This is something that was entirely unforeseen. Contractors nor Gilbane could have seen this coming. So with that, the surcharge basically just passed along. There's no additional overhead, no additional profit included within this. And the cost for this surcharge is $8,700. Any questions?
We're gonna be voting in open session for this change order.
Yes, all the change orders will be presented in open session. And then Jesselyn Kelly is here with an update on a couple of the change orders that are outside of the voting contract.
Yep, so I'll start with the change orders and then I have a Riley update as well following that. Laura, did you want that in this?
Yes.
Okay. So talking through some of the additional contracts we have outside of the construction effort with Gilbane, the security updates or the security package at each of the buildings is outside of that, so that's what we're talking about tonight. As everyone has gotten comfortable and familiar with the new building, it was called to our attention that some of the buzzer releases were not operating the way the main office had expected them to. So a buzzer release allows the main office staff to open secure doors without having to physically get up and let usher people through all the doors. So this change order encompasses adding 4 separate buttons to let people in and out of each main office at each station. So it's 2 additional buttons at each station, and this occurs at all 4 schools. So the change order encompasses all of the work completed at Sunnyside and MacArthur to get them into their new space and upcoming at Riley, for a total of $9,480. So again, this is something that just as people have settled in, we wanted to make sure it's equitable on both sites, and this is how it was originally intended. Any questions on that? Okay. Then I will jump to the next change order, which is furniture related. And this is just for the install work at Sunnyside and MacArthur, and it's related to the lack of elevator. So there was a charge to carry up the stairs for one of the vendors, and that's being shown here. So $1,400 per school. This is your interiors for business contract. So it was just your main office spaces on the first floor and your teacher's lounge and interventionist spaces right above that on the second floor. So pretty minimal areas, but resulted in a total change order of $2,800. And all of the breakdowns of what contingency is remaining is there. And I will note that on furniture, we did have that freight and delivery contingency originally built in on top of the design contingency or construction contingency. So we haven't touched that construction contingency at all, and just graphically or for our purposes here removed it from that freight and delivery.
This was for. I'm sorry.
Furniture at Sunnyside.
Furniture. Yeah.
This is for new construction.
Yeah. So the elevator wasn't operational at the time of the furniture install.
Okay,
And as part of the original full package for furniture, the elevator was intended to be installed by then. And so because of manufacturer delays on that front, they were installing furniture before that was set and ready to be used.
I thought, because I recall that being an issue, but
So we worked closely with furniture vendors to make sure that if they had larger pieces, they had a manned operation. And one of the vendors is just kind of taking it, all of your classroom furniture, they just kind of dealt with it. But the office equipment was a little bit heavier, a little bit heavier to get up the stairs. So they weren't able to afford that for that extra labor. Any other questions? Okay, then I will move to the next phase of the presentation. So, a few months back, I guess a while back now, beginning of summer, middle of summer, we had talked about the settlement of the 2000 edition at Riley. So, the board had authorized doing additional investigative work with ECS, which is your construction testing company that you have at both of these sites. So they do all of your underground testing to make sure soil conditions are appropriate and all of your structural systems are being built to spec. They did some additional testing, some additional bores, drilling into the existing interior and exterior at that 2000 edition. So those handful of classrooms on the north end of Riley. And so we've gotten the report back. They also have crack monitoring at that in key locations along that yellow line. So we can understand whether or not things are still actively settling. So this all kind of stemmed from as teachers were moving out of their classrooms and we were preparing for construction, significant settlement was noticed, at least visually. And so we have this work recommended. And so the existing observations are based on those borings that were conducted in August. So a couple of the findings to just summarize the report. There is slab settlement of up to 2 inches in approximately 4 locations, and that's really right along that yellow line, really where the buildings meet. There's wall cracking observed, and that's again where the buildings meet primarily at that joint. But we do want to highlight, and it was called to our attention in that report, that the current settlement conditions, they don't indicate a compromised structure. So what we're looking at is not anything unsafe. It's not anything that poses any immediate threat or danger. What we're really reacting to are kind of the symptoms of what's been created by this movement. So when you have the crack on the exterior, you can start to have moisture issues, and the settlement can create long-term maintenance issues. So that's really what we're reacting to here. The ongoing exploration of existing settlement will tell us whether or not what solution needs to be implemented. So some of the findings, Joe, if you want to go to the next slide. Under slab, what you have is loose granular fill, so it's really, really large rock. It's 3 inches and it doesn't compact well right away, so it'll just continue to settle, kind of like a really long, slow game of Tetris, locking into place. And then there's possible improper backfill compaction. So they think the way that it was constructed, they weren't able to get heavy machinery in there to really compact that down like you would expect, or that you would recommend now. And then you've got some really high moisture soils. So the combination of those two can lend themselves to continued settling. So again, we've seen 2 inches over 20 years. What we're trying to figure out is, did that happen in the first 3 to 5 years, or is that still happening slowly and over time? So the settlement monitoring is what's telling us that. So you have 6 locations, and we're going to have them monitor for a total of 12 to 14 months. Right now we have about 5 months of results. In 5 of the 6 locations, there is no movement. So in 5 months, they haven't read any movement. One of the locations shows a millimeter, so really negligible. And what that'll tell us over time is if we see it kind of go up and down, because it reads the net difference. if you've got seasonal changes that are causing the problem, or if it's just kind of a degradation issue. So Joe, if you want to move to the next slide. In that report, there's lots of different recommendations. I will start by saying that kind of the minimum that you would need to do to have kind of a lasting permanent solution, if you don't have to do significant remediation, is level the existing floor and repair any of the exterior. So the reason you would level the existing floor is just so that you don't have cooling or tripping issues. Right now you don't have tripping issues, but you do have some cooling at the perimeter of the rooms. And then you want to obviously repair the envelope so we don't have moisture coming in. These other recommendations from ECS are really predicated on whether or not the movement is continued and significant. So we'll go through kind of the range and then back out. I will say that this is not a recommendation. This is just informational for everyone to kind of know what's going on, and we'll come back with another update in a couple of months. But in order to remediate the slab, you can also do what's called permeation and jacking. So go in at regular intervals on a grid and basically pipe grout underground to lock all of that aggregate in place. Create kind of a pseudo foundation, and then raise the slab and fill it with grout underneath rather than leveling on top. The other option is just to raise the slab and put grout underneath if we're not seeing or concerned about any continued settlement. So option 2 is kind of the lesser invasive option. Option 1 goes to kind of that next level. And then the other thing that we have to consider or look at is foundation remediation. And I'll preface this by saying it's only needed with evidence of significant continued settlement. And the reason we would look at that is if we're seeing a lot more heaving on the second. Because really what that would indicate is that your foundations need a little bit of effort to keep them shored up. So you can underpin the existing foundations. They do what's called helical piles, which are basically just pins that go around and underneath those. And it just gets a lot more invasive. So those are the potential corrective measures. Like I said, the minimum is to kind of level the floor, prepare it, level the floor and resolve the cracking on the exterior just for longevity of materials and maintenance, and for a healthy envelope and interior. And then Joe, if you go to the next slide. So this is what we're kind of posing to the board as next steps, and then I'll get into a potential timeline following that. We're going to continue having ECS monitor cracks, and I'm asking them to come out at a routine time every month to give us that update monthly from here on out, just to see what kind of conditions we're looking at. And then if we need further investigation, this is a big if, but interior and exterior building survey would tell us if it's a level settlement or if it's just kind of happening in one area. And we need additional proposals and costs for some of that. The other option for if we need to do some significant foundation remediation is additional test pits. So what that means is they basically cut open, probably start with a 5x5 spot in the floor and grow it to get as deep as they need to, but they'll do hand digging and testing of the soil. So it's pretty invasive and can be pretty costly. That's only needed if we think that we need to go with the full foundation remediation route. So then looking at timeline, it'll kind of bleed over, it'll bleed out of this project. So that's what the board is probably going to be tested with first, is understanding what the impact is to the current construction project and what it looks like in the future. This only occurs in 4 classrooms, I believe. So things that we can do, and we talked to the Gilbane team about, is if we need to do some more significant remediation, what are the options for finishes in that space? Do we change the flooring type to be a temporary VCT measure instead of LVT, so you're not ripping up something new if you have to do something in the future? A lot of that stuff is purchased and is warehoused right now, so there's not necessarily a lost cost or a sunk cost there, but There won't necessarily be the savings that you're looking at, it just looks at kind of the timeline of preparation of the future of. You hold on to that finished floor and you put it in after you've done the remediation effort, if you're having to do something more invasive. So lots of conversations will kind of logistically happen around that, but again, no decisions need to be made until we have a little bit more data. And then Joe, if you want to go to the final slide. So this is the big picture timeline. It's pretty firm up through the spring, and then gets a lot looser just because it's dependent on what we're looking at. But we'll continue monitoring the settlement meters. We think by April, we should have a really good gauge on whether or not this is a truly continuing effort or if it's just happening at one location or if that starts to resolve itself seasonally. And in talking with the Gilbane team, we really need to pull the trigger in April to understand if more investigation needs to occur, because it will impact construction. And then they'll need time to install whatever remediation effort, temporary remediation effort is needed, because as that occurs, if you have to do additional investigation, the team will need time to design the appropriate structural changes that need to happen in that slab. So, like I said, the timeline kind of pushes out a little bit, it gets a lot looser as we go much past this summer. But just wanted to give the board an understanding of kind of the scope of this. I'll just reiterate, nothing is urgent or immediate. There's no one in danger. It's not a safety issue. At this point, we would just want to make sure that we're preparing the buildings for longevity. So with that, I know I threw a lot at you, but I'm happy to answer any questions on the soil remediation efforts, or if the settlement is still occurring.
So this activity is related to prosecutor. And so the way I interpret it, my understanding of it, summarizing this, right now testing does not identify any major situation or any major risk at this time.
Right.
You continue monitoring and you have some minimal recommendations depending on what the results are in the next few months. If we want to consider those more, depending again on those results, it needs to take further action.
Right.
And if we do not act, that the risk is to new construction that's going to take place next.
Right. Yeah.
I would like to go.
So what we did is we held off on doing any work in those 4 spaces.
Okay.
While we are doing this monitoring. And that is really good news that we've gone, 4.5 months and negligible of any movement. But we need to know.
And this is for the construction that took place in
2000.
Okay.
So yeah, it's at that 1969 and 2009.
Okay, so it's not for the previous account.
So building visit,
Yes, absolutely.
Jeremy likes those.
It's good to put your eyes on.
Yeah.
I'm a very visual person.
See what's going on. There's some other filtrations, so all at one location. It's not bad, it's not, any is bad enough.
I'll set it up.
Well, that's what it was nice.
Yes, sir. Quick update on the park.
Yep, so wrapping up the updates, just again, as everyone's getting comfortable in the new space and getting used to the new space, just had some questions on how we landed on spectator seating in the new gym, and just wanted to bring that to everyone's attention, just kind of walking through the design process. So throughout design, we do have what we call user group meetings, and so we bring in key stakeholders. A lot of times it's instructors in those spaces, and we rely on our building teams to help us furnish those. But we have, I think we had 2 or 3 conversations on this space, and wanted to walk through some of the constraints, and then really quickly where we're at with existing seating and seating opportunities, so, if you can picture the drone video, the gym is right up along the west property line. And so we're really constrained by the zoning ordinance, so we went and got a zoning variance for how close we could get to your neighbors and how tall we can be at that line. So, we use that kind of as an absolute, so that that top wall there, that west wall there, as kind of our guiding point, our guiding measure. And then as part of our user groups, it's really designed for a full court gym. So, we really prioritize that in space, orientation. So looking at bleachers, your existing bleachers at MacArthur and North Lake are right around 320 seats comfortably. And then your new bleachers for MacArthur are just shy of 200. We've got red boxes there that show additional floor seating capacity, so you can add an additional 60 seats right in front of those bleacher rows. And then you've got some areas for standing room, and we've been really selective about where we think that would be, just based on overrun and runoff from activity on the court. So you're looking at 257 spectator seats total at MacArthur. At North Lake, your existing box was defined and was a little bit smaller, so you're looking at about 232 total seats, and then there's standing room for both. The really big things that we consider when we're laying out gyms is that runoff space, right? Making sure that you've got room at the out of bounds line for kids going full speed in one direction and not really being able to stop quickly. And then some of that out of bounds activity. So just kind of giving that buffer overall to the space. But just wanted to give everyone an update. I've heard great things. I know the volleyball teams are actively using the gym and hopefully loving it. But I just wanted to give everyone an update here.
Clarification.
Mhm.
Standing room area.
Mhm.
We might have seats there or not.
I'm sorry, what?
Standing room. You got standing room?
Yep.
Or you might have seats there?
No, so these would be areas where you could add folding chairs. We're just recommending that where we show standing room, you have people that are standing so that they can get out of the way quicker, just based on the activity that's happening there. But up along that bleacher row, those two spaces that show an additional 30 seats, those would be like folding chairs that you could put out.
And I suppose with the standing room and seats, it would depend on the activity. Volleyball, maybe you could,
Yep,
because it's not accommodating runoff.
right.
Like basketball, you may have to accommodate runoff.
Exactly, so the volleyball court is a lot smaller, it's 20 feet shorter overall. And significantly less wide, so you've got a lot more room for volleyball, but this is just showing the worst case basketball scenario.
And as Jesselyn mentioned, the user groups, and that was before I became as involved in the process as I am now. And it wasn't until the bleachers were installed where I was able to walk in, and then I talked to Mr. Wachowski about it, and it just seemed not to be as large. Excuse me, the seating capacity was not as large. But then when I talked to Jesselyn about the history with the user groups, and if I recall, Mr. Wachowski, that was before you were principal of MacArthur as well, that user group. And I believe the PE teachers really wanted that larger space, which is essentially the full court, more regulation size playing surface, and so they got that. The trade-off, though, I just happen to know because I've gone to MacArthur games. It's a big deal to go to MacArthur basketball. So that's why we ended up talking about it. And Mr. Wachowski, I know I've talked to you about this as well.
You have an input? What do you think?
So we had our first home volleyball game last week. Volleyball is not as eventful of a sport as basketball. Mr. Jackson can also that coming to one of our basketball games, it is a standing room only in the old school with 350 people packed into the bleachers. So we were just brainstorming how do we make this happen next year when we get to Roosevelt versus MacArthur, which is always a big rivalry, because the kids know each other, the families know each other, they bring grandpas, aunts, uncles, everyone comes. And we wanna make sure we give our students enough opportunity to fill the bleachers. So Dr. Silva and I were just kind of brainstorming, talking about, is that possible, can we make that happen? So, the standing room only is an option, I know it's gonna still be a challenge. To pack the place like we're used to, but the trade-off is, if you've been on that court, the free throw line was an inch from out of bounds. You put your heels down and you're out of bounds shooting the 3-point shot. Now you've got a good 3-4 feet in every direction, it's a better playing surface, but we sacrifice Steve. The basketball players will be very excited. Not sure if the spectators will be come see the next year, but we'll start on the right away.
Appreciate it. Any other questions? No questions.
All updates I have.
So, quick question, then, sorry. Percentage wise, for the new construction. 5, 98, 99, 99.9 or
99.7.
and for Riley, Northwood.
Probably somewhere about. Just in the addition.
Overall.
With the summer,
We said,
The summers were split, from a college perspective, the summers were split pretty even.
so the contingency in that. It is the risk against the contingency.
Yes. Considering it's renovations. And it's like the abatement work last summer, to know what you were gonna find, to start opening some of the walls.
Right.
So that's the risk. And then we have exposure for the contingency funds.
Your exposures. Training, right, that's.
And demolition rights, I really don't understand.
This should be pretty. Straightforward. We have some allowances and stuff that were built in the contracts for, poor soil conditions that we may run into down there, things of that nature, but. It's very little risk.
And Jeremy,
So- Sorry.
oh, I'm sorry.
So I know that a year and a half ago, whatever it was, that we were looking at what was taking place with the economy and pressures we're getting. And some of the costs that are coming in that we had to reconsider. There's some cost cutting influence, value engineering. And we were still coming in within a certain dollar amount we were considering to be over. Where do we stand with that?
So we also are utilizing ESSER grant funds for the HVAC equipment.
Right.
We shifted a lot of things and amended that grant to cover a larger portion of the HVAC at Riley North Lake, because that was a large part of the overage that came in much higher than anticipated.
Right.
And we were just informed, and Brian Merquin is working on a grant for energy efficiency. So we're hoping for the Jefferson Whittier projects. There's initial application, if of interest, if you're accepted, then there's a larger application. Those grants are up to $500,000. So we're hoping that we will be able to, we'll be selected to apply. And then that would free up additional ESSER funds that, maybe we weren't able to capture everything with the mechanicals. We're just hoping to be able to have that to shift elsewhere, and either it's pick up other things and free up local funds, or to put towards the additional HVAC costs at Riley Northwood. Again, Wold, Dan Critter from Wold sent that to us, and then Brian is working on the initial application, which really is kind of a application of interest. And then they let you know if you have to go to the next, if you are selected to go to the next level.
We get like a sort of a summary at the next board meeting. Just to see big picture of what we're at.
We can work on that. Jeremy is also working on what he said he's doing, working on the closeouts. That the allowances he referred to, there are some allowances in the contracts that were unused, and shifting that to cover any other areas in the demo that we might need. And then at the later point, put it back into contingency.
And I realize this is,
Yeah.
this is gonna move.
It's a moving
Yeah,
target.
we're gonna have a picture in time. And that's gonna change over time, go up and down, but to your point, that, you know, trying to understand where we at with that, how much more is going to move down, what's the state of the district or the project.
Any other questions?
I have one last change order. We presented this is on the abatement, and I shared it with the board last month that it came in too late to put on the agenda. So we had consensus to move forward, but tonight you'll be asked to approve the actual or ratify the actual change order for the asbestos abatement work that took place at North Lake Middle School in the art room over winter break. So it was a timing issue, and the change order came in too late for your formal approval. So this is just the formality that you gave consensus to move forward over winter break.
You have an asbestos plan, what remains?
The goal is to have all of the asbestos removed during the renovations. So the abatement work, there's additional abatement work that's going to take place. I think possibly over summer, spring break, but then at the start of the summer. And then once that abatement work is done at Riley Northlake, that should be everything. There wouldn't be anything in Jefferson Whittier. There won't be anything in the new Sunnyside MacArthur. So that's like last summer, some of the delays, when we discovered it, the goal was to eliminate it and not have it there. So we could have postponed some of that abatement, but you've got the wall open, you've got this work ongoing, so, you know, we captured it at that time.
Okay.
But long term, this should not be, abatement should not be a summer project in the future.
Just to get a picture where we're at.
On the abatement,
It's all gonna be taken care of.
no further discussion then.
No, if it's all gonna be taken care of, then obviously there's no more dead and stuff. Right, and I can just understand where we are as a district.
I'll verify, Dale is on vacation, but I'll verify with him. But that was the plan, to take care of all of the asbestos during these projects.
That includes our tile, insulation. Okay.
Any other questions?
Anything else?
Guys, good job, good updates, appreciate it. There a motion to come out of facility meetings? Mr. Jackson, Mr. Shabbat. Roll call.
Mason.
Aye.
Hightower.
Aye.
Travis.
Aye.
O'Connell.
Aye.
Motion carried.
Okay, we're gonna go right into a regular board meeting. You guys, once again, always welcome to stay. You know, we family.
Thank you guys.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Okay, we're gonna go right into our regular board meeting. Can I roll call, please?
Hightower,
Here.
O'Connell. Here. Travis.
Here.
Mason.
Here.
Jackson.
Present.
Motion carried.
Good.
Thank you.
Any public participation? Renewal. Mr. Burke.
There's no comments or questions.
No comments?
Yeah, we asked that the Board of Education approve the written correspondence as presented.
Your motion. Ms. O'Connell. Mrs. Shabazz. Roll call, please.
Mason.
Aye.
Jackson. Travis.
Aye.
O'Connell. Hightower. Motion carried.
In consideration of old business, we ask that the board approve the minutes of the regular board meeting of December 19th, 2022, and there was no closed session to approve.
I get a motion, Ms. O'Connell, and Ms. Mason. Roll call.
Hightower.
Aye.
Jackson.
Aye.
Travis.
Aye.
O'Connell.
Aye.
Motion carried.
And for reports, as superintendent, I have no old business.
I have no business.
Ms. Vance.
Yes, that the Board of Education approve the accounts and claims payable authorizations as presented. There were no questions this month.
Good. Motion, Ms. O'Connell. Ms. Mason. Roll call.
O'Connell.
Aye.
Travis.
Aye.
Hightower.
Aye.
Mason.
Aye.
Jackson.
Aye.
Motion carried.
The monthly building rental report is in your packet for your review, and this is for informational purposes only.
Thank you. That's good.
No business.
No business. Are you going okay? That's fantastic. Okay, anything else to discuss? Okay, let's get consideration for old minutes last session. All right. I get a motion to go into closed session. We don't have much to discuss, right?
I'll make it as quick as I can.
I know you're gonna make the motion going to close to Ms. O'Connell and Ms. Mason. Roll call, please.
O'Connell.
Aye.
Hightower.
Aye.
Mason.
Aye.
Jackson.
Aye.
Travis.
Aye.
Okay, motion carried.
How long? I don't know.
Be quick.
Okay.
I don't know. Dr. Service is not wrong. We're gonna see. Back in session. Okay, we call it board back in session. Okay, board reports, Ms. O'Connell.
Okay, we had two PACE meetings. I'm not gonna read my report. We had one December 21st and also on the 18th of January. Okay, I've got the two reports. I'll turn them in, and our next governing board meeting is Wednesday, February 15th at 6 p.m.
Good. You're so special. We really appreciate everything you do.
I just like to keep going.
I know that. I love it. I love it. Okay, Mr. Chavez. Oh, I'm sorry, Ms. Mace.
Nothing's a report.
Okay. Yes. Well, as we always, we have our, we'll be happy for this one, and all the minutes is part of the, board report. Okay, Mr. Okay, so, no reports. Superintendent?
Thank you, Mr. President. Licensed personnel leave of absences. We ask that the board approve the licensed personnel leave requests as presented for Rashonda Morrison and Cynthia Jones.
We have a motion.
Nyla Yukani, Maria Berrigan, and Melanie Arceo. Sorry.
I'm leaving one out. The motion. Ms. O'Connell and Ms. Mason. Roll call, please.
Hightower.
Aye.
Mason.
Aye.
Jackson.
Aye.
Travis.
Aye.
O'Connell.
Aye.
Motion carried.
Licensed personnel employments, we ask that the board employ the following teacher, effective pending employment paperwork. John Pass, PE teacher MacArthur. And Kiara McGee, district-wide substitute teacher, as presented.
Get a motion, Ms. Mason? And Mr. Jackson, roll call please.
O'Connell. Aye. Travis.
Aye.
Jackson.
Aye.
Mason.
Aye.
Hightower.
Aye.
Motion carried.
Educational support staff leave of absence. We ask that the board approve the educational support staff leave request as presented for Giselle Sosa, Barb Alessi, and Mary Ann Kwasniewski.
Get a motion. Ms. Jackson, Ms. O'Connell, roll call please.
Mason.
Aye.
Jackson.
Aye.
Hightower.
Aye.
O'Connell.
Aye.
Travis.
Aye.
Motion carried.
Educational support staff employments. We ask that the board employ the following personnel pending all employment paperwork. Monette Hayes, lunchroom supervisor, Sunnyside School.
Motion, Mr. Jackson. Ms. Mason, roll call please.
Could I change that to lunchroom monitor? We changed that name.
Okay.
We did. Sorry about that.
For the minutes.
Lunchroom monitor.
O'Connell.
Aye.
Hightower.
Aye.
Mason.
Aye.
Jackson.
Aye.
Travis.
Aye.
Motion carried.
Approve reassignment. We ask that Perry Strawn be assigned as the floater custodian and Norma Villalba as a lunchroom monitor. Effective January 31, 2023 for Ms. Villalba and January 2nd, 2023 for Mr. Strawn as presented. Let me just read that again, just make sure I got it right. Perry Strawn, floater custodian to maintenance, mid-shift, effective January 2nd, 2023. And Norma Villalba, lunchroom monitor to nutritional services floater, effective January 31, 2023. How's that? Got it?
Correct.
Got it. Thank you.
Get a motion, Ms. O'Connell, Ms. Mason, roll call please.
Travis.
Aye.
Jackson.
Aye.
O'Connell.
Aye.
Mason. Hightower.
Aye.
Motion carried.
For fundraisers, we ask that the board approve the fundraisers as presented for MacArthur, Student Council, Sunnyside Intermediate, a 100 pennies fundraiser, and Camp Duncan, as well as North Lake Student Council and Jefferson Sunnyside MacArthur Bona Beef fundraiser as presented.
Motion, Mr. Jackson and Ms. Mason, roll call please.
Travis.
Aye.
Mason. Hightower.
Aye.
Jackson.
Aye.
O'Connell. Aye. Motion carried.
Serious safety hazard annual resolution. This resolution was originally adopted in the March 1989 board meeting. And we are required by the Illinois Department of Transportation to re-adopt this resolution each year. We ask that the Board of Education approve the serious safety hazard annual resolution as presented.
The motion, Mr. Jackson, Ms. O'Connell, roll call please.
Hightower.
Aye.
O'Connell.
Aye.
Mason.
Aye.
Travis.
Aye.
Jackson.
Aye.
Motion carried.
Declassify series of closed session minutes. We ask that the board declassify the following closed session minutes as presented: November 15th, 2021, December 20th, 2021, January 24th, 2022, February 28th, 2022, May 23rd, 2022, June 27th, 2022, number 1, June 27th, 2022, number 2, August 1st, 2022, August 29th, 2022, September 26th, 2022, and October 24th, 2022.
Okay, Ms. Motion please. Ms. O'Connell and Mr. Jackson, roll call please.
O'Connell.
Aye.
Travis.
Aye.
Jackson.
Aye.
Mason.
Aye.
Hightower.
Aye.
Motion carried.
So then for my oral report, I just wanted to mention I'll be attending on behalf of the board, the Leiden Area Board Dinner, unless any of the board members change their mind and would like to attend with me this Wednesday, January 25th at 6 o'clock from 6 to 8:30. If anyone would like to attend, I'm glad to go with you. All right. So just in case anyone else wants to go. I wanted to mention that we've been working on our school calendar for the 2023-2024 school year. And pending feedback from our team here and also from the staff, I may be able to bring this to the board for consideration at the February 27th board meeting. So a couple of things are of note. One is that Columbus Day in Illinois is now referred to as Indigenous Peoples Day. And also President's Day is no longer called President's Day. It's now called Lincoln's birthday. So a couple of changes that have happened. And so we have really good feedback on our calendar so far. One of the important notes, though, is that we are planning to start the school year 1 week later next year. And that's in anticipation to make sure that we have enough time to be as prepared as possible for the start of the school year, particularly with the work that's happening at Riley Northlake, but also we have work happening for HVAC and health life safety at Whittier and Jefferson. And then we also have the demolition taking place on this side. Even though we plan to still have summer school here, a lot going on. There's ever a good time to back it up. This is the time. So I just wanted you to have that as FYI. I put in our information for this month's topic of enrollment. What I wanted to mention this month for data, I try to share data every board meeting, is that for our residency, what we'd like to do for this coming school year is prepare by doing a residency audit. And what we mean by that is how well are we doing with our current residency, and learn what we can to make sure we are prepared for new families for the 23-24 school year. So for example, in what I shared with you today under the new enrollment, if you scroll down to the bottom, what we found through looking at our data is this year, here in District 87, we have 65 students who are living with a third party. So what that means is they're on an affidavit. Or put it another way, they're doubled up. They're living with someone else. And that's currently 65 students. So to break that down, that is one student is like that at Northlake. There are 12 students in that situation at MacArthur. There are 5 at Riley, 8 at Sunnyside, 11 at Whittier, and this is interesting, 28 at Jefferson. So what we're going to do is work with our counselors, social workers, nurses, assistant principals and principals, as well as Ms. Spatafor, myself and Mr. Byrne, is try to figure out what are the circumstances that are leading to that. Because 65 families were not able, or students were not able to provide category 1, category 2, category 3. So that's an example of how we're using the data. And we want to use that information. Are any of these families homeless, let's say? We have to find that out. And we noticed that with COVID, there was more and more movement of people. And so I mentioned these numbers to you because we have, those numbers I gave you are just for new students this year. Just for new students. So 65 of our new students are living with someone else. That's how they're purporting to come into the district. So I just wanted to mention that's an example of the data that we're using from our enrollment, and we want to use that to better prepare, not only to make sure that the people who are here this year, we have that accurate, but then also anticipation of enrollment for next year. And so in our district, 42 of our new families own their own home. Approximately 25 were renting. So there's a variability of living conditions. But that one of living with a third party is one I feel as a district we need to better understand what's happening. So that's what that is. We are giving a survey to the staff again at our February Institute. We started it last year, which is where that culture rubric came from, didn't you see? And that was from Voice last year. We asked our staff, are you proud to work in District 87? Last year, I want to say we had 75% of our staff reported that they were. I'm hoping it's at least 95% this year. That's what I want. I'm attending the Illinois School of Advanced Leadership this Thursday through Saturday in Springfield. And that's the end of my report, Mr. Question.
Any questions? Okay, Ms. Susan.
Right. Hi, everybody. So I wanted to give everyone kind of an update on our ARC implementation. I met with the chief executive officer from the American Marine Company and the chief academic officer from American Marine Company. They came from Pennsylvania and came out to meet with myself. And then both Ms. Marzanic and Ms. Valdez also met with me. We were talking about our implementation this year, and I first want to say that our staff has really done a phenomenal job with the implementation. Our staff has been very receptive to the embedded coaching, and our scholars have responded very positively to the instruction. From the ARC standpoint, as an organization, we've had some challenges, as with any brand new implementation. You have challenges with materials, so we've had some difficulties receiving materials. And so I've been working behind the scenes with the ARC operations team, and I've met with them. We've had some inconsistencies with some of our embedded coaching, which is one of the reasons why the team came out to meet with us and talk through some of our needs and some of our challenges. So I wanted to just kind of give you an update on where we stand at this point with them. The ARC CEOs and CAO were very apologetic for any of the difficulties that our district has encountered with their implementation, and are working they've rectified things along the way. But in addition to that, they owned their mistakes as a company and really wanted to talk through and get the feedback from us so they can grow and be better, as well as an organization. But to compensate us for some of the difficulties and challenges, we are going to be receiving an additional 4 complimentary PD days, embedded coaching days for our teachers. Because of the materials mix-ups with our kindergarten team at the beginning of the school year, the CEO felt horribly that our kindergarten teachers had some of the struggles that they had. And so she actually is writing an apology to all of our kindergarten teachers and sending each kindergarten teacher a basket of 100 books to distribute to our kids. They will receive that on March 17th to send home, for kids to pick books to send home, and then the teachers can keep the remaining books in their classrooms. So I was very thankful for that. She was very apologetic and felt horribly. We have access through School Pace, which is our digital platform, to all of the curricular units, and we pay for those yearly. We will now have access through them at no cost to the district for all of next year. Additionally, we have the wide reading libraries that all of our classrooms have, that they are the libraries that they're out all year that the kids use for their power goals. There's supposed to be enough of differences that you can exchange between classroom teachers. We didn't get enough variety. They sent us too many duplicates. So they will be sending out, we've categorized and they figured out where the duplicates are. So they'll be sending out new wide reading libraries to the classrooms and the buildings so that we have the right wide reading libraries so that we can exchange those across our classrooms. So our kids and our teachers have the variety that we were entitled to. Additionally, they are sending us additional read alouds for our upcoming unit. There was a mix up in the numbers that they originally sent to us, so those are being sent to us, so that they're here for the beginning of our next unit. And they have launched a brand new product. It's called Art Reads. So those of you, Mr. Jackson, you probably know this, your child comes home with their reading log and they're doing their minutes and their steps to practice at home, and if that's on a paper log. Well, they've launched a new product where it's all done through their school pace, so the students can go into through their Clever Badge and log all of their reading steps and practice that way, and they no longer have to do it by paper. So we will have that complimentary for the rest of this year and all of next year as a district. One more thing. The professional development, they do an unpacking of each of the units. They do a webinar. Those were live and they were scheduled at these really interesting times for teachers, like, 10 in the morning or something like that. Right. So we had a long conversation about how there's not a lot of subs and teachers don't have a lot of time in the day. They're teaching at 10 o'clock in the morning. So they are now going to be recording those, and they will be sending us the recordings so that our teachers can watch them and during their collaboration time, and then we have access to them at any time that we need them as well. So I really feel like my goal was to have a long conversation about our district needs and to protect our investment and making sure that our district received everything that they were entitled to, and then compensated us for some of the unfortunate situations that we encountered across the year. So I really think that they have stepped up, and I've met with the team since they left on Thursday. I've met 3 or 4 times now with her team to make sure all of these different items are in place and headed our way. So I think we're in a good place with ARC at this point moving forward. And
What's the name of the consultant? I'm assuming this is a consultant degree?
No, this is our English language arts curriculum adoption, American Reading Company.
With who?
American Reading Company.
Okay.
Yeah, we adopted it in March.
What's the cost of this?
We adopted it in March last year.
Okay.
So nothing's costing us now.
Okay.
These are all the things we are receiving for free.
Okay.
Because of the mix-ups and the materials delays and the professional development misunderstandings and things on the part of the company. So
there's a cost associated with this company, right?
Yeah, we've already paid for everything. All the materials, the board.
Okay, so let's ask my question then. What is the cost?
So the cost that you had last year when we did its cost was $1.4 million.
Okay, so we paid this company $1.4 million
over the course of this, for all the reading materials, K-8.
And what are the gaps that we've seen right now?
So one of the gaps was that we had they shipped some of the wrong materials to us.
Okay.
And then by the time, because of the cost delays of getting that shipping to us, we had the teachers were already through those sections of the unit that they were already taught. So we had to use the online versions instead of the actual books. So I have been working them to recoup that back to us.
Okay.
We got all the materials that we're entitled to receive, but we should have gotten some of them before school started. But because of the shipping delays, or they shipped us the wrong version of it, our teachers didn't have it on the first day. That's why they're compensating us with these different items.
I mean, it's good that they're going out of their way, because it seems like they're doing quite a bit. That's what I'm hearing.
Yes.
The concern is why the gap got there and how is that being monitored?
So I've been monitoring it daily.
She's been monitoring it since day one.
Since June.
Since we issued the contract.
Yeah, since June.
And Kelly's made it happen, but because of those gaps, it was a little more difficult than it needed to be.
Yes.
And we used ESSER funds for this. This was all about reading recovery.
Yep.
Because of what the kids had gone through.
Mhm.
And so we had the resources, so you
Utilize
had the
that.
curriculum council work on this and make this
Mhm.
recommendation. And I don't mean to say that it was too much for them to deliver, but Kelly was on it from day one. You promised this, but this is our reality.
Right.
And there was a lot happening because these items were arriving right at the time we were getting schools ready that were under construction. new furniture, there was a lot going on,
Yeah.
Kelly stayed on it.
And I'm not questioning that,
Yeah, well, why don't you forgot the CEO to come out?
but I'm not,
I did.
So,
I'm questioning the big vendors not performing. How that is being managed. We include penalties in our contracts. Whenever we have situations, this is for a question for Laura.
Well, I wasn't part of the contract negotiation, but when we purchased, textbook adoption curriculum, I don't think there is a penalty because normally they would deliver the materials in the timeline that they should. I think part of it is they had a change in the edition.
They did.
And so they sent us the old edition instead of the edition that we should have received. I think that was part of the mix up.
Yeah, that was
And-
definitely a kindergarten situation.
And then when they were checking everything in, Ellie and her team were going through that and there were things that were missing. And when she would call, they're like, oh, it's on. the
We sent
packing
it, I sent it. I'm like, but you didn't. You sent us the old one.
Right, and matching it up, they identified the things that were missing were the wrong additions and eventually they sent it, but for the pain and suffering, they are
They're
offering.
compensating us for all of these things.
Okay.
So I met with their operations team in October. So this has been really ongoing, just refining their processes and ours. I met with their operations team and walked through some of the glitches. And one of the things that their CEO told me on Friday was that because of the feedback we gave them in October, they changed their processes for shipping, and we really haven't had any glitches since then.
Okay.
Um,
And you know, I don't mean this in a negative way towards you. I mean, you obviously put the screws to them to get them to perform.
yes,
I think it's something we should consider if vendors are not gonna perform, what type of penalties we add contraction.
Mhm.
You know, because at the end of the day, who suffers? Our children.
right.
So,
And that was the thing, is I was like, well, this is what we agreed to, this is what we purchased, and I need to make sure that our kids get what they need and our teachers get what they need. And so ultimately, that's why they came out, because I kept coming back and saying, okay, yes.
they
you-
came back, they went out of the way, everything.
They did.
said that They did, they must have really messed up, which they went all the way out, which is good. I think it's, you know, the board, I mean, I personally, I appreciate the fact that, you know, we put the screws to them to get to that point, but, you know, what contractually, what can we do in the future?
No, that's a great point.
explore it.
That's a great point. Thank you. And I, you know, for me, I was really trying to make sure that, like Dr. Sullivan said, I was trying to take it all here and make sure our kids didn't have as much impact on our teachers. So that they could make sure that they had what they needed.
I think the big part is that Mrs. Zimmerman and her team met with other districts to get feedback on the different types of curriculum programs when they were reviewing it.
Yes.
And so you're gonna provide feedback to other districts,
Mm-hmm.
which is the biggest cost that they could pay if they didn't honor this.
Well, and it's a sizable contract, that's why my question, it's, you know, based on what they went way out of their way, I'm thinking this must have been a sizable contract for them to see the risk.
Yeah.
And, you know, it wasn't a $10,000 contract.
Mm.
You know, and for a contract that high, then more the reason, you know, to understand what type of penalties you would add to that.
Right. That's a great point. I think we're in good shape. We have everything we need for the rest of the units, and then all of these additional pieces to help our staff moving forward and our kids. We have been busy planning our February Institute. We're so excited. We're gonna have it in our new buildings. So that's really exciting. Our curriculum council has been planning to make sure that we have all of our different events. It's called, our theme is Refresh and Rejuvenate. So we're gonna have some opportunities at the end of the day that are sessions that are chosen by our staff and led by our staff. After we have some art, marine companies, some math, and some de-escalation strategies, then we're gonna get into some different things like yoga, games and puzzles, some different things to kind of relax and rejuvenate for the last hour of the day. We also have a new platform. So one of the things that I have been really looking for is additional professional development and support for our specials teachers, music and art. And so I've been looking and meeting with, and it's called Art of Education University. It is a professional development platform that was designed by an art teacher who's now works at a university. And it is a series of professional development webinars and different live professional development that our art teachers can engage in. So I'm looking at, we did a demo site with that company. And I'm meeting with the art teachers tomorrow to get their feedback around, is this something that they want to continue? Because finding professional development for those specialty teachers and making sure that they continue to grow and hone their craft as teachers is a challenging endeavor. Because there's a lot out there for English, math, science, and social studies, but those little specialty niches has been a little more challenging. So I'm really excited that we have this potential opportunity to bring that to our art and educators. And be able to maybe extend that also to our music teachers. So I'm continuing to work through that. In our curriculum council, we have been continuing to finalize our curriculum management plan, which outlines really all the work we do in the curriculum department, how we make decisions. We're in the final stages of that plan and finished up our roles and responsibilities of all of our stakeholders. And then we'll be finalizing the communication plan. So that's kind of where the Portrait of a Scholar came from, and continuing how we make all of our curriculum decisions for the department. So I hope to be able to bring that to you in March, April at the latest. And then the last piece is we are also, I'm excited that we are, as a offshoot of the Curriculum Council, we are looking on our MTSS, which is the multi-tiered strategies and systems of support. That team will be beginning to meet to continue to refine what are those protocols for interventions and supports for our students. And so we will have all of those protocols hopefully refined by the end of the school year and ready to go for the fall. Then I have one last piece of update, and I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Mazanek around social emotional learning and where we're at with those implementation.
So I just wanted to update you guys on a few things because I know last month we shared the data. And more of this is in response to, okay, now that we have the data, what are we doing in regard to it? So we actually started working with a liaison that specializes in social emotional learning with West 40. She's been fantastic because the sole purpose of her role is to help districts kind of like audit, to no cost to us, it's all covered by grants, but to audit their programming currently and to actually look at things from a safety lens all the way through the actual programming that's happening in the classrooms. So we've been working with her, and one of the starting points that we have is a program called Safe to Help. We instituted some learning for our counselors and social workers around it in, what's our last institute day? You all glad to cover that. So we did some work. We found out there's a lot more expansive resources that Safe to Help offers. In a nutshell, Safe to Help is a program that provides 24/7 support for threatening situations for children to have somebody to connect to outside of the school day. So we kind of thought with, a lot of the things that are coming up with students today, you need to have somebody beyond even just the house or the school provide. So Safe to Help is one of the resources we're looking into. I even had to have notes tonight because that's one of the things we have going on here. Then with Panorama, which is the survey platform we use, we actually were able to use some grant funding to move forward with another part of the program that is called the Student Success Platform. What that is going to allow us to do is look at our students on an individual and group levels based on the survey results to start looking at additional programming and supports within the school day that our social workers and counselors can provide to them. And then it will be tracking all of that data within the system itself. So just kind of adding another layer, going deeper as Ms. Zimmerman was talking about. That tier 2, we want it to not just be in academics, we want it to be the social emotional realm as well. So we're getting ready to start that. Joe and I have been working with their tech side of things along with Ivy to get that up and rolling in about February. So I'll be doing some work with social workers and counselors then. Then there's also a program we are working on through Proviso, which is called Strengthening Proviso Youth. It's actually a mentoring program. They pair students up one-to-one to an adult that has now gone through their program. We have a couple of students right now that we've started to use in the mentoring program, And it's basically like, we need help beyond the school day, and we recognize that there could be more opportunities for maybe adults in this child's life. And they have different tracks through their program called Building Strong Kids. So these different tracks kind of say, is this being psychology career readiness? Is this kind of just regulation? We need to help with things like that. Is it lack of parental resource or family unit? And once they get kind of through this intake process, they match them up with a mentor adult, they put them on that track program. And again, extends our resources beyond just the school day, but also with our neighboring community. And then upcoming to our social work and counselor team is going to be putting together a social emotional family night. We'll probably brand it a little bit differently than that, make it more of like an actual just fun family event. Number one, bring our families into the environment, but have additional resources there to supply them with. There's a lot with SEL that extends well beyond the school day, we want you to be familiar with. And again, this is going to be our West Florida liaison, will help us understand what additional resources that maybe we can even have for that event that evening to make our parents proud. Couple of wonderful things happening. Huge shout out to our social worker and counselor team. I meet with them every Friday and they just keep the ideas flowing and they are up and ready for anything. So I'm really blessed with that team. That's all I got.
Question for both of you, and administration. What have you seen the attitude of students since the new buildings open? Have you seen a drastic change in students' behavior, attitude at large?
I would say, I think that in walking through the buildings, and I'll defer to Mr. G and Dr. Martinic, that kids seem to be very excited to be there, very happy to be there. I walked into a classroom at Sunnyside and they were like, ask us how we said, how are we doing? Like, we're fantastic. And I'm like, who couldn't be happy in this beautiful new space? This new learning space. This was 5th grade. And they were like, yes, they told me their attitude, your attitude determines your outlook, is what they were explaining to me. They were having a conversation around that in their classroom as the new year begins. But I've been in and out of classrooms, they seem to be really engaged and excited to be in their new space.
Well, to say you the last because you're gonna get a board update on the whole building. So you don't come last, okay? Just get your thoughts ready. All right, thank you very much.
Teachers as well.
Anything else?
Anything to share, Kara, about being in the new buildings?
I think the environment, you wouldn't think that it makes such a big difference, but it absolutely does. I always believe that there's a philosophy that if you put the bar as high as it possibly can be, people continue to rise to it. I think once we went over to this space, what I feel like students felt was that they were more in a, like, almost like a college environment. It was just, I felt like, I remember being there the first day at MacArthur, it did not feel like a first day. But I mean, kudos to the amount of work that this team put in to ensure that the students have practiced. But I think it's like when you elevate, people rise to it.
Mm-hmm.
Those kids rose, the staff rose. I mean, it was just like they could feel that they were deserving of what they were well deserving of. So that would be my personal take from just seeing things firsthand. But this guy right here did a lot of behind the scenes work that he won't take credit for because it's got for sounds great.
You don't give a chance to give us a couple minutes.
We went from a dungeon to the 21st century.
Anything else?
Right? You're paying attention.
Anything else?
No, nothing else. There's an end.
Okay, Ms. Vance.
Yes. Thank you. So the summary of budget, the statement of position, and the student activity funds, activity reports for the period ending December 31, 2022 are provided for your review. Several of the items on my agenda are annual items. So the first one regarding preparing the budget for FY24. The suggested motion is that the Board of Education designate the superintendent and assistant superintendent for finance and operations to prepare the 2023-2024 budget in tentative form.
Motion, Mr. Jackson. So come. Roll call, please.
Hightower,
Aye.
Jackson.
Aye.
Chavez.
Aye.
O'Connell. Aye. Motion carried.
And the next, allows us to intervene on property tax appeals. So the suggested motion is that the Board of Education adopt the property tax year 2022 resolution authorizing intervention in proceeding before the State Property Tax Appeal Board as presented.
Motion. Ms. Jackson and Ms. O'Connor, roll call please.
Chavez.
Aye.
Jackson.
Aye.
O'Connell. Aye. Hightower.
Aye.
Motion carried.
And the next few will be regarding the change orders that were discussed during the Facilities Committee. The suggested motion is that the Board of Education approve change orders number 129 through 136 as presented.
Okay, Ms. Jackson. Ms. O'Connor, roll call please.
Hightower.
Aye.
Jackson.
Aye.
O'Connell.
Aye.
Chavez.
Aye.
Motion carried.
And the next one is regarding the security project, that the Board of Education approve security project change order 1 as presented.
Motion. Ms. Jackson, Ms. O'Connor, roll call please.
Hightower.
Aye.
O'Connell.
Aye.
Chavez.
Aye.
Jackson.
Aye.
Motion carried.
That the Board of Education approve the furniture for the Sunnyside MacArthur projects change order 1 as presented.
Motion. Ms. Jackson, Ms. O'Connor, roll call please.
Hightower.
Aye.
Jackson.
Aye.
Chavez.
Aye.
O'Connell.
Aye.
Motion carried.
That the Board of Education approve to ratify the asbestos abatement change order 4N as presented.
Motion. Jackson. This is Chavez, roll call please.
O'Connell.
Aye.
Hightower.
Aye.
Jackson.
Aye.
Chavez.
Aye.
Motion carried.
And then the next item is related to additional interest earned on the escrow funds for the 2022 B escrow funds. It earned surplus interest of $20,235.35. The resolution will allow us to transfer it from debt service to O&M and then to the capital projects fund. And we are using that to pay the part of the construction payment tonight. So the suggested motion is that the Board of Education adopt the resolution authorizing the transfer of money from bond and interest to the operations and maintenance fund of the district as presented.
Motion. Chavez, Ms. O'Connor, roll call please.
Hightower.
Aye.
Jackson.
Aye.
Chavez.
Aye.
O'Connell.
Aye.
Motion carried.
And then on my oral report, as Dr. Sullivan mentioned earlier, we had a big push to try and recycle, reuse, reallocate furniture in the leftover furniture in Sunnyside MacArthur. We did a push, we allowed employees to take items, whether they moved some things to a different building or they were able to take things home and use it when they're working at home. We had a push with several other districts to organizations to try and recycle the furniture and equipment. We've talked about it, but we didn't, that this would be part of the project, but we didn't formally approve to identify that leftover furniture and equipment as surplus. So next month, we'll bring an action item to the board to designate the disposal of that equipment as surplus and allow the disposal of it. Some of it, we've let other districts and people take, and other things we, it will be part of the demolition.
So it's just approving, it's an asset of the district that we approve as a board that we can dispose of it and we need to.
Yes. Okay. And then I wanted to share with the board, the CPI for December is 6.5%. I attended the, this week, the Village of Berkeley Joint Review Board meeting. And they shared information that the St. Charles Road TIF 1 will be coming off the, will be ending in 2020, at the end of 2023. they're gonna double check it, but they thought that they would have the 2023 collections in 2024. And then it would go on the tax bills in 25, but they're gonna verify those dates for me and get back to me. TIF 2, the St. Charles Road corridor, is ongoing. They plan to do some updates in 2023. They are marketing the village-owned property in the corridor. They have a facade program for businesses. And they were offering a $10,000 matching grants for facade updates for businesses within the corridor. And tomorrow afternoon, Wold will be attending along with MWRD, the Village of Bellwood, and the engineering firm for the final site walkthrough for sign off on as-built and that for the site work at Jefferson. So that's the formality of that project. And Thursday, I'll be attending the EBC pre-renewal meeting to get the pre-renewal information on our employee benefits. And then on Friday, I've been invited to attend the IASBO Leadership Day. And so I will attend that. I'm looking forward to it. They always have wonderful professional development. And it's usually a very good day to not only network, but to learn additional information. So I thank the board for the opportunity to attend that.
Anytime.
Thank you. And that is the end of my report unless there are any questions.
Any questions?
Thank you.
I do have an update. Dale White is not here, but I did get some updates from him. Should I share it now? Or
Yes.
wait? Okay. The training at the new Sunnyside MacArthur is ongoing, and that is the training on the new mechanicals and the new systems. So that is ongoing. The asbestos abatement, as Jeremy mentioned earlier, at the old Sunnyside MacArthur started on January 18th and will go for the next few weeks. Mr. White met with the Sunnyside and MacArthur custodians regarding the cleaning schedule. They'll be maintaining the current schedule until they're fully staffed, and then they'll reevaluate that and look at any kind of changes in that schedule, that process. And then I was going to share that the MacArthur gym floor, we cut tiles, and I do see that some of them are already on the table for you. It's a souvenir.
Thank
And
you.
that is the end of Dale's report.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Appreciate it. Ms. Travis.
Listed for you are vacancies. These are our current vacancies, which are still part of the 2022 school year. We are going to get ready early February, and we'll start 2022 school vacancies. But these are still our vacancies as of May. So we have 20 certified positions still open, 20 support staff, but some of the support staff are new positions. For example, custodians, because we're adding them. And then 3 district-wide substitute positions. So we're still working on it.
Well, we're capitalizing on a new look of facilities.
Well, not yet. The career fair, you'll hear about those in a few minutes. So you'll hear more about that. But however, if we do have someone who's interested in working for us, you know, I'll talk about, you know, when we build it there or MacArthur or Sunnyside. I'll take them over there, take them on to it. Like we just hired a PE teacher for MacArthur. So yeah.
Did we were we gonna put together some type of video or something during the career fair?
We're gonna work on it. The retention committee will be meeting soon. So we're gonna work on it. I've listed out some names of people who I think with a variety of experience would be good to be in the videos. Just have to, you know, talk to them about it, see if they're interested. But Mr. Burton and I, we're gonna work on some ideas.
Okay.
Because I wanted to be of good quality, but I were talking about it. I wanted to be of, you know, good quality. I have some colleagues in other districts that have conducted videos, so I can get it to some of Mr. Burton. The next, item is on Thursday and Friday, so Thursday and Friday is popular for conferences. I will be attending the ISPA conference with other HR issues and to learn from them and then share common knowledge about different HR issues in schools. So looking forward to that, and thank you for the opportunity to attend and share. I also serve on the ISPA board meeting, and then on Wednesday, I've been invited to present to aspiring assistant principals and principals about the difference between interviewing for a teacher position versus a administrative position. So I'll be doing a 30-minute presentation via a webinar for aspiring leaders. And then last but not least, upcoming career fairs. The career fair season has opened up. And we have registered for career fairs at Illinois State, Northern Illinois University, University of Illinois Chicago, University of Illinois Champaign, which partners with Eastern University, National Rural University, North Central College, and Northeastern Illinois University. I'm also looking forward to possibly connecting with some out-of-state universities who, some HBCUs, and maybe attend one or two to maybe recruit more diverse students as well. And if you don't have any questions, that's the end of my report.
Any questions, Mr. Trapp? Keep doing a good job, appreciate it. Hey, Mr. Byrne, I'm going to call Mr. Byrne, Ms. Perez, they were both our guest speaker, fair? Mr. Byrne.
Build up what Travis said, I think contact with Jeremy here, Gilbane had a professional photographer out at our new building. So I requested that all the media that they took, they passed our way as well, so we could support our marketing and so forth as well. So I look forward to that, seeing some of that. To continue talking about the new buildings, continuing to work on security camera integration, and now we're moving to training for staff that have to use those resources and organizing it in such a way that could be beneficial to staff and then the safety of staff. Still working on finalization of some audio video equipment. All the classroom technology has been finalized, which was the priority as we transition to the new building. But there are some specialty spaces like gyms and so forth that they don't have their audio visual equipment finalized. So we're going to work with the installer, and as Ms. Zimmerman said, with Institute Day going to be over the new building, we're trying to get that equipment installed so they can be utilized for that event. And then something I think I mentioned last time where we moved to allow our families to put in attendance requests on the mobile app, Skyward Family Access. So that's something that will be communicated out to our families this week as a convenience to our families, but also to better identify and track the absences of our students. So that's hopefully that's valued by our families and leads to some more accurate data than that can go for us. So that's it. Unless there's any questions.
Any questions, Mr. Barnes? Question? Thank you.
Okay, for English learners, one of the biggest areas would be that we have received high influx of newcomers from concentrated from like Latin America, which what this means is that these students are coming in with either no schooling, interrupted schooling. Some of them are coming in with formal schooling, but that is not in the majority. So the areas that are getting hit the hardest are our intermediate schools, our 3 to 5 buildings. To put some context around that, last school year and the previous school years, our newcomers numbers were under 10 and district-wide. And right now they're closer to 30. And, since we got back from our winter break, we had in just one classroom close to 7 students enrolled. Due to, the type of programming that is needed. So I will continue to keep you posted on this. We do realize very much to Mrs. Travis' point that we have several positions that are open in EL and in terms of English language learning services, both at the certified and non-certified. So we are taking a look at how can we best provide services to our newcomers, knowing that the position, like to add additional human capacity would not be a viable option because we have so many positions open. But I wanted to make sure that that was something that you were aware of. On another hand, we had parent engagement on the 12th of January. It was really well attended. Thank you again for the administrative assistant to the department. That really made a big difference. We were able to provide connection with their families on a one-to-one basis. And so all of our families received different types of invites. We had for the first time families attend, which means both the dad and the mom attended the session. In some of them, we did have one or the other attend, but we had, again, a very nice turnout in terms of parent engagement on the parent side, as well as the engagement on our student side. In addition to that, we have received interest by both our certified staff and our non-certified staff to provide what is called high impact EL tutoring for our scholars, both in the morning before school from 8 to 8:45, as well as after school from 3:45 to 4:30. So what that means is that we've targeted our students that are newcomers to receive that additional layer of support if the parents are approving of that. And not in all cases are the parents approving. Some of the reasons for that include it's just a very long day for the child. They prefer the child to go back home. So at this point, it's a big transition. Those are the major areas that I wanted you to be aware of. Do you have any questions on any of the information that I provided?
Would the kid have to do the before and after school session, or they just?
No, they get to choose voluntary, and it's very intense. So the parent has the option of either the before session or the after school session. And the groups are depending on the need of the child. It's either one-on-one tutoring or 1-to-3, and those are per guidelines that the state provided for this type of tutoring.
Any questions? Been very busy. Thank you. Okay, our shining star, our speaker of the night.
So I realized I am the last person standing for you getting up at door. So I'll be as detailed and brief as possible.
That's great.
I want to answer your first question. I think what you were asking was, due to the curriculum and the SEL supports that it added, have we seen some change in our students? Is that what you're asking?
Yes.
And I can speak on 3 schools. So MacArthur and Northlake, we work very closely together with the 2 middle schools. And being a neighbor to Sunnyside, I can speak on those 3 schools as well. And what I've seen is a return from the pandemic back to normal, when it comes to just the feelings and the emotions of the students. But that was done intentionally. I think the middle schools changed their schedules around, provide morning advisories, whereas they stay for place, where there's only 12 or 13 kids in a class. Every adult has an advisory. They are teaching SEL lessons each morning. They're doing second step weekly. So some of those programs that Kara was talking about, which also we haven't mentioned Social Institute, I don't know if that was talked about in an earlier meeting. So we've got some lessons in place to help support the social emotional learning of the students. I think the reading program as well. We have kids talking about reading. I gotta be honest, this is my 21st year in the district, and I don't remember too many kids being excited about taking home books and reading them and coming back and sharing them with their teachers. So this program has definitely ignited a love for reading in the lower grades that will trickle up as we get there. Middle school is a challenge the first, couple months or so. I have to read a book and I have to talk about the book. They just weren't used to that because our programs in the past were a little bit different, where they weren't independent reading every day for 30 minutes. Now they're reading for 30 minutes at home and should be reading for 30 minutes at school. So an hour of reading is a big difference in what we're asking our scholars to do in the past. It's starting to click. You go in the classrooms and the kids are bringing home the reading logs and you ask them what the book they're reading. They can talk about the book they're reading. Or in the past, you asked the kid, what are you reading? They didn't have the book that they were reading. What they were reading in class is what they were reading at home. It wasn't that choice. So there's definitely a lot more kids talking about reading. And I see it trickling from the intermediate school, like super excited, and that's growing, and kids are running out of books to read in their classrooms. And I think that's one of the things Kelly was talking about, is we didn't get the right material, so we didn't have the right number of books. So there was like a fight over a book. I want that book. Well, I have to get to be fun. They'll have more choices with the other book bins that are coming. So that answers that question. I also wanted, before I wanted to thank everybody in District 87. I know I haven't had a chance to talk to them since the open house, but one of the feedbacks that we talked about with a lot of our parents, the comment that we heard from our families that night or that morning was, it's about time, our kids deserve this. So I don't know if you got a chance to speak to any parents that night, but that was a pretty common thing. But I wanted to make sure I shared that with you guys, that this building is seen as a life-changing district direction event in District 87. I heard that a lot that night, or that morning. Our kids deserve this. And then the last thing is just talking about all the people that came together that first day of school. So I remember Dr. Sullivan, myself, and Mr. Torres sat in this room, and we were anxiety ridden about we're moving in the first day, and there's going to be boxes everywhere. We're not going to make this move, and we reassured that we would. We both left that being skeptical, thinking, I don't see how this is going to work so well. And it did. It all just kind of happened on that January 4th. I remember it just kind of happened. I mean, there's a lot over break that took place. There's a lot of people in that building that were on vacation, that were in that building getting things ready, whether it was construction company, the team here in this room, as well as teachers. Everyone stepped up, did what they had to. And the first day of school, you looked around and there was everybody doing their part. The custodians were overworked and overtime. They knew what they were doing for the kids. So it was a very happy event to see everyone come together. And the kids have appreciated it. They've now settled in. It's their home. It started off being, this is the new place we're learning it. They've settled back down into, okay, this is where we go to school every day. But every so often, they still you just catch them looking around. And like, what are you doing? This place is just so cool. And we've had many families refer to it as a college. And even the kids talk about it like a college environment. And we can't wait until we can be outside with the outdoor learning spaces. We saw the picnic tables still in from the other building. We get the field back. It's just, they're so excited. And the answer to this, Mrs. Travis was talking about, we did have our one PE teacher that she happened to walk on over. He was in a room with her and she walked him over and got to the new building. And not saying that's what it's all field, but that was definitely one piece of it that said kind of like, yeah, this place is amazing. So. And there's been a lot of good feedback from the teachers and the staff about the use of the hallways. So if you've been in that building, you've seen all the common furniture in the hallways. At first, they weren't really sure. The teachers were kind of nervous how that would work because it was new to them. Now you come over in the old schools, you used to see kids sitting on the floor all the time reading or doing work on the floors. And now it's so common practice. And just, I think we've been there for 14 days, I think. And in 14 days, it's doing work and being trusted to be in the hallway and not have to sit on the floor. It's nice to see. Because our kids were always working hard, but they just wasn't the space for for them to go out into. So I had something in the classroom today. If we go out and read in the hallway, absolutely. Go out in the hallway and read. It's nice that you can be in the classroom, watch the kids in the hallway, and still be in the classroom and teach. So it's been a life changer for in this short amount of time. So nothing but great feedback when I'm talking. Speed bumps along the way to Jeremy's. Jeremy's been great. He's on my top 10 text people that I text probably daily. Things that come up, he's helping us out, so it's been nothing but great. great experience for all the people involved.
Well, this is why we let you be guest speaker. Great job. Thank you. This is a team effort. This is what the team has done. The intent was to change the environment, change the attitude. I think we've done that as a community. Thanks, everybody. All right. Getting a little late here tonight, right? A little bit. Okay, just a little bit. No other new business, okay? Big announcement, next board meeting will be February 27th. What's happening? February 27th, next board meeting. No, next board meeting, February 27th, for your calendar. All right, got it? Okay. Get a motion to adjourn? So, Colonel? Mr. Jackson, roll call, please.
Right, Keller?
Aye.
Brown? Jackson?
Aye.
Travis?
Hi.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Appreciate you.